And women obviously have other attributes that we don't have. Hopefully it evens out. This is just one where it's undeniable we're different. We are stronger and bigger and taller. And if LeBron James' team, which is not even in the playoffs yet, played against the best team in the WNBA, it would be stop the fight.
This person was brought on by Bill Maher. Let's move on to this clip where Bill Maher shuts down this guy for a ridiculously woke take here, live on the Club Random podcast. Bob Cuss, who works as a sports analyst or sports announcer, whatever you want to call him, had a very woke take here, live on the Bill Maher podcast. Bill Maher simply had to call him out for his nonsense and the BS agenda that Bob Couse was trying to push.
That's real progress. That's a great thing. No one can say it isn't a great thing.
It's just, women just don't want to do the exact same things as men. The fact that we have to explain
as
this,
a group,
just the fact that we have to explain this to children who have taken over the internet is ridiculous.
Let's take the Atlantic's position, or at least that writer in the Atlantic's position, to its logical conclusion. Then it should be this. Okay. Hey, why don't we just have one basketball team at Ohio State or at UCLA, and everybody goes out for the team?
Can you imagine what would happen if the worst NBA team?
It's absurd to act as though the only reason women's sports exist is because they're not good enough to play men's sports. Men's sports don't exist. There is only just sports. And then there are women's sports because they're not good enough to play with the men. That's just the reality of the situation. If we had one basketball team at every school, or if there were no women's sports, then there would simply be no women in sports. According to Bill M. and Bob, if we simply follow these foolish ideas to their logical conclusion and decide that, hey, let's just make one big team for every school. Every single sports division should just have one team, no women's division, no men's division, just one team. They would never want to do so, because then no women would be participating in sports at all.
If you think this is some sort of put down of women, it's a put down of God or whoever created this species. And women obviously have other attributes that we don't have. Hopefully it evens out. This is just one where it's undeniable we're different. We are stronger and bigger and taller. And if LeBron James' team, which is not even in the playoffs yet, played against the best team in the WNBA, it would be stop the fight.
Yes.
What would the score be?
Yes, this is...
Sometimes, when I watch women's basketball or college basketball games on TV, I just glance at the games and think, wow, this is the most terrible basketball ever. I've played pickup basketball, and sometimes I swear to you that if I could go pick up 4 people from my local gym, we could beat someone in the women's college basketball tournament's Final Four.
It's just reality.
Maybe the better example to give is an individual sport, and even Serena Williams, I believe, has acknowledged this.
She has. Serena Williams,
the greatest female tennis player, arguably, in history, would not be among the 50 best men among her contemporaries. Maybe that's generous.
McEnroe said the best 700.
And, McEnroe sometimes makes provocative statements, but we like John.
Hey, we own a pot store together.
Last time I saw him was backstage at your show at the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden. So
the Woods. Woody Harrelson's going to love me for this, but yes, I do have a pot store, and we share it. It's mostly his. I'm trying to get more, but the Woods.
Look, distinctions matter. So here's an issue related to that. The women's soccer team, the U.S. women's soccer team, has for a long time lobbied for equal resources and equal pay. And the reflexive argument coming from the right or anti-wokesters is to say, wait a minute, they're not as good as the men. And the men's World Cup generates X times more money than the women's World Cup. Yes, this would be a good argument in Brazil. This would be a good, really, but it's not a good argument here. Because it's a pretty simple Google search if you haven't been paying attention. The U.S. men can't even get into the quarterfinals. The women win the World Cup and they win the Olympic gold medal on a regular basis. Even if you think Megan Rapinoe is at times a little obnoxious, that has nothing to do with it. In this particular context, they deserve to be compensated.
Who's Megan Rapinoe?
Megan Rapinoe is the most prominent player on the women's team.
Consider this. If the women's team earns more, they should be paid accordingly. Simple as that. I don't know how the Olympic pay system works, but in regular professional sports, it's a business. Pay athletes based on the revenue they generate, just like any other business. Who's better or who would win in a one-on-one doesn't matter. Maybe there's a rare exception, but that doesn't change the rule. When women's college basketball players talk about striking for more pay, it sounds ridiculous, especially when leagues like the WNBA reportedly lose money. The truth is, not many people watch it. I'm not trying to bash women's basketball for fun, but when players constantly demand equal pay without equal revenue, it provokes a response. If people don't want to watch, that's the reality. And it affects pay.
I knew that, Bob. I was testing you.
Yeah.
Again, this is a quote from someone, but obviously someone they find credible. The fact that you would write this down on a piece of paper just astounds me. The strict segregation is gives the impression. These are ideas, impressions. How about this one? The researchers hypothesized that the gap they did find between girls and boys was likely due to socialization.
Yeah.
Socialization. That's why
Look.
the NBA and the WNBA are so different. It's what happened in high school.
We're talking about also at the elite level. Allison Felix, fastest woman in the world, runs faster than 99.999% of all men,
Yes.
but not as fast as Usain Bolt.
Not as
Can-
fast as high school runners who are men.
Well, that she's pretty, not some of them,
Well,
some of them.
All right.
But
Maybe that's not right, but I've heard people in the know, maybe they don't know, tell me that that's the case, that the top male high school runners, and I don't know why they wouldn't, because you're probably the best you are when you're in high school. I mean, you're 18.
yeah, you get additional
Whatever it
training,
is, the
whatever.
point remains that women and men are different biologically as far as strength and stuff that matters in sports.
and
the fact that we are debating
if you
stuff.
obliterated that, then all the really admirable female athletes would be off the stage. Allison Felix would not have a gold medal. She wouldn't even be in the field.
But how can we solve our problems when we're like stuck debating things that shouldn't be debatable to begin with?
Right.
Like you can't, like we, it's like being stuck in that place in a relationship where like we can't get back to the bliss because we're still arguing about what happened in the diner.
Yeah, it's the truth. I'm glad Bill Maher is finally waking up and calling this stuff out. It's not just about the people on his podcast or Real Time, it's about the audience he's reaching and waking up. It's bigger than just the women's sports pay issue. It's about basic reality. If we can't even agree on what a man or a woman is, how can we have any real conversation? That's what Bill is getting at. Without a shared baseline of truth, there's no point. I'm pretty black-pilled on the whole thing. The left and right aren't going to come together. It's only getting worse. Conversations are useful, not because they unite us, but because they expose the lies. The left avoids debates because they lose when the facts come out. Talking helps us prove our points and win people over, but it'll never be kumbaya. I think Bill Maher is starting to see that too. Let me know in the comments what you think about him calling this out. Thanks to Bob for raising the equal pay topic. He even suggested the women's soccer team should earn more than the men. This was On the Club Random Podcast with Bob Costas.